Good morning, North America. This is your spoiler warning for World's Play-In Stage, Day 1 in 3, 2, 1. Man, is it weird to see two O's that end before you wake up. And I even woke up a little bit earlier, like 7:15, to try and, watch the games before I had to leave for work. Or not watch the games, but fast forward through them, skim some of the highlights. And it was fairly simple. That's the only negative thing about VOD watching during Worlds is if you're watching the main broadcast and you see that it's a short time period, you can kind of get a guess of what's going on. At least in best of threes and best of five series. So what I would recommend doing is I would recommend going to Reddit, which I believe has the VODs by game. And that might be the better way of doing it, but on days like today, I mean, it's play-in stage, so I'm fine. The first series of the day was between Movistar R7 and PSG. PSG being heavy favorites coming into the series. I think most people in their pick'ems are probably down between Loud and PSG to get the slot besides BDS. So all eyes are realistically on those two teams to see if they can step up and perform. And lucky for PSG, they did. Now granted, they started off a little bit slow in some of their early games, but as the game progressed, they were perfectly fine. Some pretty big differences in top lane and bot lane. The game one Kennen, I think, was 30 CS ahead with a few kills. It was just damn. They gapped pretty hard. Game two definitely felt like it was a little bit closer, at least from the highlights that I saw. But overall, it was a pretty swift 2-0 PSG. I'm not really going to spend too much time breaking it down or analyzing it whenever I'm just watching a few highlights. I'd rather talk about the broader implications of Worlds. Their win here now means that they play the winner of Loud versus GAM to automatically qualify into the bracket stage of play-ins, and they'll play the number 2 seed out of the other group, which, assuming BDS wins as expected, should be an easier matchup to get through. And the loser of that series tomorrow will end up placing against BDS themselves, which is a little bit tougher. So all eyes then shifted to the main matchup of the day, which was Loud versus GAM. Most people after MSI and even Worlds of last year are really down on GAM, but after the Asia games, they performed decently well, granted on an older patch. So could they step up? Could they become the GAM that we once knew them to be, where Levi was this insane jungler and they're making plays all over the map to try and come into games and just upset some big teams? And the answer was no. Game one was pretty decisive, and the bot lane gap this series is pretty big, which is hilarious given that if you remember last year, bot lane for Loud had the whole flex thing on his arm. That was always fun, and I love Loud as a team and how hyped they can be. But yeah, they pretty much hand-stepped in game one. Game two was actually fairly close, and GAM was ahead for quite a while. But mid to late game fights, they just weren't on the same page and couldn't get it together, which sucks because you really want to see them be a little bit more competitive. But yeah, Loud is just the better team, which is good because I think it makes that matchup 2 days from now even better. The most notable moment from the Loud series as a whole is for Pick'ems fans that took the 3+ on Pentakills. You already got one on day one.
The last few auto attacks there onto the Xayah, but will turn and burn for the quadra kill, and they have to dive. They have to dive it. Give him the penta. You have to go for it right now. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get it on day one. He's got a couple more seconds. They're looking for it. They got the inhibitors down. They got the Nexus turrets as well. Finally, here they go. There's Slater with the stopwatch. Finally, they go in onto the turret. It is going to be a pentakill for Roush.
Moving on to the community comment of the day, I'm actually going to go with one that talks about welcome to filming these in the morning, or at least in Jersey City, which is abnormally loud this morning. Comment of the day says that Worlds ads are basically like Super Bowl ads. I completely agree. I don't know what it is about ads around Worlds time, on the broadcasts themselves, but dear God, do they just make you feel like it's Worlds time. You get to memorizing the songs and patterns that they use for all of these. I don't know, Worlds time just hits different for whatever reason. The ads make it feel like you're in that moment. And I didn't touch on it yesterday, but this is the first Worlds where they're using that Project Striker location in Dublin, Ireland. So Raz and the commentator desk, when they are talking, they are in a completely different part of the world than the actual games, because the games and the broadcast and everything together are all being sent to Riot's new global broadcast distribution centers that match everything together and send it out, which is really cool. And it definitely feels like a step up. Prior to this, whenever we would have Worlds, and we have, you know, broadcast talent in a different location than the actual event, you could tell, and it was always a little bit weird, and like having it in the LCS studio or the LEC studio was always a little bit more tough, because then you could just feel that separation. But in this broadcast center, it's pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. Like, they had their issues on day one, but it definitely got better very quickly, and I think they fixed the majority of the issues. So really happy with how like they're setting up their whole esports infrastructure around the world. Also, shout out to Mercedes Benz. I got a press kit yesterday in our media group that Mercedes is once again partnering with Worlds for the 4th straight year. And I think that's really good to show that we are still maintaining that sponsorship, that we are able to deliver value. And actually, Mercedes is doing a couple events in Korea in partnership with T1. So clearly we're proving value to our sponsors, at least on the international side, which is really good. And Mercedes is like one of the top brands to get in all of advertising and sponsorships. Golf has notably had that for a long period of time. Like, the luxury car market is massive, and they have a lot of money that they're willing to throw at people. If we can keep them happy, we're doing good. Overreaction of the day is going to be provided by me, and it is that I think this is the year for Loud. Not that obviously they're going to win it all, like, don't be delusional and think that me saying that is that. Rather, I think this is the year that they get out of play-ins and actually make it to Swiss stage. All they have to do, in my eyes, is beat PSG in 2 days. They do that, they're in. But there's just something about Brazilian fans and this league that is growing that I love seeing. If there are two guarantees in esports, is that French fans and Brazilian fans will show up no matter what. And how do you not love that? Worlds is in Korea, and we already got footage of Brazil fans that flew out there to make sure that they could watch the event and cheer on the team. That's amazing. Like, they travel better than most other major regions, barring like the LPL and LCK, which is just insane. And selfishly, in a world where we could see a potential merger between all of the Americas in League of Legends, obviously getting used to cheering for Loud would kind of be a nice thing. Plus, there's like a lot of crossover with Rafa and other LCS people having roots to CBLoL, including Emily Rand. So that makes it easy. Filming in New York City in the morning, especially in Herald Square, not the easiest thing in the world, but you gotta keep an eye out and keep going. A quick preview for tomorrow before I move on to the last bit of news. I do think Flying Oysters versus Detonation Focus Me, it's gonna be a fairly even match, I think. I don't really, like, this side of the bracket doesn't really matter all that much to me, because BDS in my eyes is just getting out there. It's just a matter of who's gonna be that second seed that goes up against the loser of Loud and GAM, or Loud and PSG, sorry. But I honestly have no prediction whatsoever. I know none of these teams, I know nothing about them, so I'm not gonna try and sit here and lie to you and say that I do. The bit of news that I wanna move on to though, is Adam doing the classic thing that somebody always does from the West every year. And that is, he says, oh, the gap between us and the Eastern top laners of the LPL and LCK isn't as big as people are making it out to be. And I know everybody in the world, including BDS fans and LEC fans, look at that statement and are just like, damn, really? He had to be the one to say it this year? Really? Because historically, it was Fudge, I think, last year, and then I forget who was the year before, but like, any time that we say this, it never works out. There is yet to be an international event, I think barring like MSI 2021, where Fudge performed decently well, where this rings to be true the entire time. So, as if this wasn't the case already, all eyes now on BDS shift to Adam as he plays literally anybody, because if he loses to a minor region team now, people are gonna meme the hell out of him. If he loses to any of the LPL or LCK, he's gonna get memed that the gap is pretty large. Now granted, he performed well against Licorice, but bro, it's Licorice. Calm yourself. I love it though. I love whenever people say something like that. It gives storylines for us to talk about. It gives me something to talk about here. And it's just entertaining. Like, I want you to be braggadocious. I want you to do that type of stuff and back it up. Just don't say it and collapse. If Adam can come out here and actually win against the LPL or LCK, then hey, it's no holds bars from there. My man talked his shit and backed it up. So we will see, but they got to get through play-ins first. First thing, one step at a time, and we go from there. I know this is going to be a little bit rougher, not as many pictures, not as many edits. As you can see, I'm recording this on the way to work, and then I got to work, so I'm literally going to upload this like as I'm walking in the door of the office. So thank you all for tuning in. Weekdays when I'm in the office are going to be like this. Weekends, whenever I'm at home, will be a little bit more formalized. Hope you all enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next video. Adios.